What's going on, everybody? This is Island Hopper TV, and today we're coming to you from Penang, Malaysia with the best things to do. Let's get into the list. First up, we're going up to Penang Hill here on the Funicular cable car. The ride takes about 4.5 minutes to get to the top, and as you're going up, you're going to see lots of views. This is a historical site. The price does vary depending on if you're a foreigner or if you're a local Malay. If you're a foreigner, you can expect to pay anywhere between $5 to $10 per person. It looks a little bit scary from the videos, but when you're in there, I didn't feel like it was too scary. And then when you actually get to the top, you're here at Penang Hill, and you can see great views overlooking the city down in towards Georgetown. You can see some of the temples and the jetty area. So really great views up here. You might want to spend about an hour to an hour and a half walking around and enjoying a coffee or some soft drink. And just in case you're wondering, I didn't do a tour for any of this. It was all kind of freestyle, just checking out videos like this and looking on TripAdvisor for ideas. I did take a taxi from my hotel to this area. So that's how I got around most of Penang, was grab taxis and stuff like that. I would say avoid coming over here on weekends because it does get quite busy, and waiting for those cable cars to come back and pick up people when there's long lines can be a bit annoying. And by the way, as we continue to show you around Penang, there are timestamps below so you can bounce around from location to location. Here we are at Georgetown. Now this is the old British colonial area. So down here you're going to find lots of history, and most people come here for the street art, the food, and yeah, drinking. All right, so we're going to do a rickshaw tour here. He's going to take me around for about 30 to 45 minutes, and we're going to see more of Penang from the locals' view. Let's do it. The rickshaw ride was a great way to get some local perspective, and it doesn't cost much money. You're helping support one of the guys who makes a living doing this, and it takes about an hour. He shows you around some of the nooks and crannies and hidden gems of Georgetown, which mostly really includes street art. So there's lots of street art, and you'll see everything from murals of little kids or adults, heroes of the old world, lots of animals, lots of cats. So those are what you're mostly gonna see when it comes to the street art down here. And it's really popular. People like to take pictures with all types of different murals down here. And even though there is a rapidly advancing modern side to Penang, down here in Georgetown, they've done a great job of preserving it. So it makes you feel like you're going back in time. It's really a UNESCO heritage kind of area, which includes these jetties, one of them being Chu Jetty, but there's a few different ones. The Chu Jetty was basically 5 wooden jetties constructed in the 1800s, and it was part of the quay area here, an area where there's a lot of docks, but people were also living there. Nowadays, you walk out there, you'll find souvenir shops, restaurants, and it's a nice place to hang out, especially in the evening time. Because it is on the west side of Penang, you will be looking across the straits there to the mainland of Malaysia. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this video so far, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel as we continue to show you around Penang. So the jetties and the old town of Georgetown, definitely a must-see when you visit Penang. Now here we are talking about food. So if you ask any of the locals, they'll always tell you one of the top things to do in Penang is eat local food. It's delicious. And if you've ever been to Singapore, you're probably really familiar with the food hawkers. Now, one thing I will say about Singapore and Penang, I would say they're like brother and sister cities, both because they have the British colonial background. Penang reminds me of Singapore probably 30 or 40 years ago, so you're going to get more of that authentic experience here in Penang. Now, when it comes to finding the best hawkers, I would say check out Chulia Street Hawker Food. They also have Pressgrave Street. And then if you head over to an area called Gurney Street, we're actually going to be showing you and highlighting more of Gurney Street a little bit later on. But that's a great area to go if you're looking for plenty of these different food hawkers. And let's talk about some of the local food more in detail. It's really a fusion between that Malay, Indonesian kind of cuisine with nasi lemak, nasi goreng, plenty of satay. And then you have a lot of Chinese influence because many of the Chinese immigrants came down here just as they did with Singapore. So with that, it's going to come a lot of dim sum options, fried street food where they've got tofu mixed in with meat and rice out of a banana leaf. And then you've got something unique like an oyster omelet. I mean, some of the food you're going to find out here on the streets of Penang, really in a league of its own, stuff you won't find anywhere else in the world. So definitely come to Penang with the intent to try a wide variety of food, both on the street and in the restaurants and at these hawkers. And there's also another ethnic group that has a presence out here. This is Little India. And in Little India, just like in Singapore, you will find a very heavy influence of Indian cuisine and culture. Lots of textile options down here. So definitely take the time to check out all around Georgetown and the food scene, especially around Little India and Chulia Street. I mean, you really know you're in a Little India when you see something called Bollywood or something selling silks and garments. That's how you know you're there. Now, Little India in Singapore is a bit bigger than the one here in Penang, but I'm glad there is a Little India and it's worth checking out if you're around the area. Just to give you some context on this list that I have here, it took me about 2.5 days of touring around Penang to do all of this. So really, you just need around 3 days. I would say 2 to 3 days, and you can knock out most of this list. I mean, it's a real heavy mix of Eastern cultures here, and it's something you've got to see if you're coming to Malaysia. Do not skip Penang. As far as going over to the mainland side, I did hear from people where they said it's not really worth it. You may go over to Buttersworth, which is going to be where the train is to Kuala Lumpur, but that's about the only thing over there. But over here in Penang, they do have a beach called Ferringhi Beach. This is one of the most popular hotel areas. The beach is considered a white sand beach. I'm not going to sit here and say it's on the same level of Thailand or maybe even Langkawi, but it's a nice tourist area. And if you did decide to go over from Georgetown, Penang, over to the mainland where Buttersworth is, you would take one of these bridges, the Penang Bridge being the most impressive one. And now here we are at Fort Cornwallis. As you guys know, Cornwallis was the general who surrendered to the United States during the American Revolutionary War. So you've probably heard his name before, but that same Cornwallis was out here in Penang, and this here is Fort Cornwallis. It's a smaller fort, but it's a historical background where you can learn more about the British and how they were setting up their colony here. Now this here is the Peranakan Mansion. The Peranakans are the Chinese migrants who came down here. They have a strong presence here in Penang, and these mansions are a very historical insight and look into the past. Very beautiful in here. Definitely one of those places you want to check out. It's just off to the side of Georgetown's UNESCO area, so it's really easy to get to, right next to Fort Cornwallis actually. When I was there was 2 different wedding shoots going on. Now here we are at Lok Si Temple. This is actually one of the most impressive Buddhist temples I've ever been to. It's up here on the slopes of Penang Hill, you could say. So you could easily do this in the same day you do Penang Hill, but check out this beautiful Buddhist temple here and walk around. I actually would suggest getting a taxi to take you up to the top of Lok Si Temple because it's quite the hike. Now here we are at the Botanical Gardens. This is a great place to do exercise for those of you who are looking for a spot to go. This is where it seems like most of the workout fitness people go in the evening time, and really a nice ambiance and vibe, especially in the evening time. I'm sure you could come here in the morning, or maybe for those of you who are really looking to get a little wild, could come out here during the heat of the day. But nighttime seems to be the spot to go for some fitness, cardio, and just a regular walk if you wanted to do that. And there's also a nice nature area, obviously being that it's a botanical garden, and they have a waterfall up above on the hill that's worth checking out. Now here we are at Gurney Street. I told you about this place earlier. This is more of the modern area. This is where I stayed at the hotel called the Marriott. For those of you who are subscribed to Island Hopper TV Hotels, you can go over on that channel and check out the review that I did of the Marriott on Gurney Road. But they have plenty different hotels along this street. This is really a modern area, lots of food street and hawker stuff going on. So a nice area to stay. I would say between this and Ferringhi, this is where you want to be. They also have a modern mall here. But if you look around, you can see this is some of the street food action that I was able to get. Again, you talk to the locals, they're going to tell you the most popular things to do for the locals. Eat food, drink beer, and sleep. It seems like that's one of the signature things to do that people always talk about, but on a more serious note, definitely getting out here and hitting up these hawkers that we talked about earlier. But this is just a look at some more of that food variety because there's such an emphasis on food here. And don't be scared to try some of these soups. Also, I needed some hydration, so I got some coconut, some fresh coconut, full of electrolytes, right? And then there's some other Buddhist temples around Gurney Street area. You can see right here, they've got one for the Burmese, and then they've got one for the Thai. They're just across the street from each other. So if you're someone who's looking for more of a spiritual experience, this is right next to Gurney Street. For those of you history buffs out there, maybe consider staying at the hotel called the Blue Mansion. You can't really go inside here unless you're staying here, but it's famous for movies. And if you do want to tour, you might have to get a professional guide. But either way, that's going to be a wrap for Penang. If you guys are coming to Malaysia, check out our Langkawi video or Kuala Lumpur next. See you on the next one.